All right, it's 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna dive right into our class today. So today's class is all about the top strategies for donor retention. So a little bit about me again. I'll be your speaker today. I'm Candace, and I'm the manager of success and education here at CauseVox. With CauseVox, you're able to raise more with raise more with less effort through our digital fundraising platform. While a lot of other software is clunky, complex, and contract bound, CauseVox actually tidies up your digital fundraising so you can run donation pages, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer fundraising, and more in less time without hassle. If you're interested in hearing more about CauseVox, you can always go to our website or reach out to me as well. So today's donor retention class is all about the top donor retention strategies. Last week we went over just a basic intro to donor retention and went over what it looks like to set some goals, as well as segmentation and donor nurturing, were a few of the key topics that we'll be referencing today throughout our class. Class number 3 coming up next is individually scheduled, so you and I can sit down for half an hour and go over all of your retention questions. We'll go over your retention goals and your retention plan as well, just to make sure that you are optimizing every opportunity to increase your donor retention rates. In addition to just the course, you're going to get access to all the slides and the recordings of class 1 and 2. We'll have that consultation. We also have some templates for you, so the donor retention calculator. We have our donor retention and engagement playbook, so that's an ebook for you to download. We have the SMART Goals worksheet that we'll be looking at today as well, and a nurturing journey template. So these links were included in the email that went out on Friday. If you didn't get them, let me know. I'll probably also just include them in my next email anyway. But now that we're all set with that, we're gonna dive right into the details of our class today. So first up, we're gonna be spending the majority of our time going over the 10 most effective donor retention strategies, and then taking a look at what it looks like to finalize them into your goals and crafting your actionable retention plan. So your templates, so this we went over last time, your donor retention calculator, also the fundraising goals worksheet, so that's what that looks like. And we also have the nurturing journey template, which you can basically just use as an example to create your own. For the deliverables of what you're actually getting out of this course, this donor retention analysis includes the fundraising goals and plans that you're going to be creating based on your fundraising calculator, the completed fundraising goals worksheet, and then that coaching session. So we have so much content to dive into today. I'm really excited to go over these most effective donor retention strategies. If you have questions throughout the class, please feel free to chat them in. I'll try and get to them at the end. If we don't get to your questions, because we do have quite a packed day today, we can always go over anything else during our one-on-one session. So quick refresher, donor retention is the percent of donors that return to give another gift in a specific period of time. And the average donor retention rate is 45%, meaning that most of your donors that gave last year are unfortunately not going to give this year. And there's really practical ways for you to increase that donor retention. So we're going to be going into 10 really specific things that you can do that are easy wins when it comes to donor retention. So up first is have a strong call to action. So there was a 30% increase in donations when the button color was changed from gray to red. So the donate button color on an organization's website. And this really does tie into a broader idea of, if donors find it hard to find how to give to you, you're going to be missing out on a lot of those repeat gifts. And so just a quick example of what some of these CTAs look like. So Stupid Cancer, this is just their website. Their donate button is bright, it's branded. it draws the attention of the viewer right away. So easy for a returning donor that comes to your website to just have that pop out and have them make a second gift. Another thing about call to actions is that it's great to have them throughout your website and throughout your content in general. So this is another example of just, there's another page on Stupid Cancer's website that goes into more about the scholarships that they offer. And there's that CTA to donate now. So throughout their website, they have not just the donate button, but they have opportunities to give on multiple pages of their site. Another interesting call to action I found on their website was to start fundraising for Stupid Cancer. They have a few bullet points there about why they would do that and what they would receive. Another great example of call to actions is on social media. So this should be in more, likely more of your social media posts than what you currently have put out there. So just having really practical call to actions about how people can get involved and donate and give back to your organization. So I also found this email. So I was digging through organizations I've donated to in the past and just seeing what their communications looked like to me. And so this came up in my search as well. So this was an email that's really super practical in reporting impact and having that big red donate button. And I like that it says donate to give winter relief. It's very clear exactly what I'm going to be doing when I click that call to action. So this can, also really be incorporated into a lot of your email marketing strategy. So back on Stupid Cancer, you'll see that they have their donate button and the donation page pops up then and there. So it's not taken to a third-party site. It's not, you're not bouncing the donor all over the place. So it's very simple to make a donation. They don't have to do a lot of clicking around the site. And so this is just like another example of what that would look like on a page as well. So CauseVox has these really easy to use embeddable donation pages that you can put on your site. But it's just a quick example as to how you can really integrate call to actions across multiple channels. So really what you'll want to do is assess where on your website you have more opportunities to integrate more straightforward call to actions. And then also take a look at your current email communication, social media, and consider the ways in which, at events or on phone calls, you incorporate this kind of strong call to action, which is really, really crucial to let your donor know what exactly you want them to do. Because a lot of times, without that strong call to action, they can receive this great communication that gives the donor such great insight into what your organization is doing, but there's not a clear way for them to participate and give. And so having those clear call to actions will very simply increase donor retention because they're going to know exactly how to give very directly and easily to your organization. So it's super easy win to just have those call to actions throughout all of your communications. Just best practices when you're constructing a call to action. So you want to answer the questions, what you want your donor to do, how their donation will make an impact, and why is this donation urgent? I think that last one can get lost sometimes. Even if you have a great ask with please donate today to give winter relief. So how the donation will make an impact, but what exactly makes it urgent for them to donate today? And I think when you do answer that in your call to action, you're going to see more conversions on that ask and therefore increase donor retention. As a best practice, with call to actions, you're probably going to want to segment them throughout all your donors. And so last week, we talked a little bit about how donors that gave over $250 had a 76% retention rate as opposed to the average 45%. That's just one way that you can segment donors, but having specific asks aimed at the level that that donor is at is going to make it even easier to get them to continue to donate. So an action item for you is to review your website, emails, and literally any other communications that ever go out to see where you have more opportunities to add strong call to actions and increase donor conversion and donor retention. Number 2 is be personal. This is a little bit more of a less tangible way, but we'll go into why this is really important. So 71% of donors feel more engaged when a nonprofit sends personalized content to them. And there's a lot here. So this is from the ABILA donor loyalty study, and I grabbed this graphic from their study. So it really does communicate that 72% of donors are affected by the content that you send them. So if it's not personalized and it's not specific, you're gonna see decreased donor retention because of the content that you're sending out to donors. So the way that you approach donors is super, super important. And so a lot of this has to do with the donor's need to feel seen and understood. And donors are expecting a journey with you and not a journey at them, if that makes sense. So relationships, as with anything else, where it's you know, coworkers or friends, family, it's all a two-way street. And I think coming into donor retention with that perspective, that this is a journey that you're taking together, is really super important. So I have a few suggestions for how to actually build a relationship with a donor instead of just talking at them. And so one that we already kind of went over is just personalizing that content. So if they're interested in a specific program, sending them more content about that specifically. And then that goes along with that segmentation, but also considering the other ways that you can segment donors based on preferred types of communication and some of the things that we went over last time. A lot of this has to do with also storytelling and making the donor the hero of the story and showcasing them as the person that's driving impact, instead of having it just be focused on all the impact that your organization is making, but making that really flipped around and focused on how the donor is making an impact and telling stories from that approach. Approachable tone. So this is like, again, like a little bit more squishy, but when we send out communications, for example, we have a really specific standard for the tone of all of our content that goes out. We want to be approachable. We don't want to come off as, you know, like we know better than anybody. And so we've really tried to craft our tone so that we're approachable at CauseVox when we speak to all of our nonprofits. And so I think this is really interesting for you to kind of take a look at your communications and just see, you know, having that assessment as far as branding goes, and helping find the right tone for your donor communications, and being approachable as an organization where people feel like they can reach out to you if they have questions, and that you're kind of open to developing more of a relationship with them. In-person donor events are a great way to just have that face-to-face with donors, and also get them to connect with each other, so building community that way. Sometimes it's hard to do that though, so I would consider trying to take things to a Facebook Live or some sort of live interaction where your donors can actually interact with your staff, you know, ask them questions face-to-face, and really just start developing like a personal relationship with your donors. Personalized thank you notes are always super appreciated from donors. Also text messaging. We talked about surveys a little bit last week, and I think this is a big way for you to get more insight into how to build a relationship with a donor. And it also gives your donors the opportunity to provide you feedback as well. So I think just as an organization, having like a way for donors to consistently provide feedback and give them opportunities to hear from them specifically and you know, talk more about why they donate, for example, is really, really great information for you to know. And it also helps the donor feel like they're connecting with you on a deeper level, because you're giving them an opportunity to personally communicate and be acknowledged by your organization. And phone calls are a great way to do this as well. So this is really just all about taking a personal approach to all of your donor communications, so that you can build that deeper foundational relationship with the donor so you can keep them longer. So yeah, action item for you is to look for practical ways for you to allow donors to engage with you and build on that donor relationship. This one is super, super practical. Number 3 is thank donors within 48 hours. So thanking your donor within 48 hours made them 400% more likely to give again. And a 3-minute thank you phone call resulted in a 30% increase in donor retention. And this was also within 48 hours. So these are super practical ways and easy wins for you to massively increase donor retention. The easiest way to do this is having a donation form that actually has automated receipts. So few best practices to show donor, and really at the heart of this is that donors want to be appreciated, and be appreciated and not acknowledged very quickly after their donation. Super, super important for you to have a plan in place. So one of the ways to do this is through the automated receipt, through whatever donation form that you're using. Another way to do this is having a landing page as soon as a donor completes a donation that celebrates the donor, and provides more information about impact. And something that you can incorporate into this landing page as well is a video to say thank you as well. I really think that the phone call idea is important because it does increase donor retention, but I also completely acknowledge that you might not have all of the time and resources to make a bunch of phone calls all the time. So I would maybe segment the phone call and reserve that for donors above a certain dollar amount. So either that $250 amount, or maybe just even $100 amount. So whatever kind of works well for your organization. Also having that personalized thank you note. Social media shout outs are a great way to acknowledge a donor. It makes them feel super special to be acknowledged by your organization in a public sort of setting. We also talked a lot about nurturing series last time, so making sure that the donors are enrolled in a nurturing series that also reinforces your appreciation of them. And then next, considering donor highlights. So this is probably something that like you would post on your blog, for example. So maybe calling out a segment of higher level donors or just donors that have a really interesting story to share as well about why they give to your organization. This could be a great way to showcase donors and provide more content to help donors sort of also connect with each other. And so this is a great way to also show donor appreciation throughout your different communications. So action item for you is to make sure that your donation receipts are automated for your donation page and also any other fundraising campaigns that you do. So whether you do an event or you know, just a digital fundraising campaign, making sure that all of those receipts are automated, because that immediate thank you is super, super important. for your retention, and a super easy win as well. And then, yeah, consider calling a segment of your donors. And then considering these additional donor appreciation strategies, I would at the very least consider the landing page, and maybe do some social media shout outs as well, just if you're looking for an easy place to start. So donors really need to be appreciated, and that goes into sort of building that relationship, because they're giving to your organization. They need that recognition and you know, just to be known that they're seen and appreciated by your organization. So that leads us to number 4. So focusing on a second gift strategy within the first 90 days. So we went over this a bit last time, that 23% of first-time donors give again. That's according to the Fundraising Effectiveness Project. However, 63% of repeat donors are retained. So that's a huge increase in donor retention that you're going to get by just securing the second gift from those first-time donors. And another study that came out from Bloomerang showed that donors that give within the first 3 months of making their first donation have twice as higher lifetime value than those that give a whole year later. So even of that segment of donors that are retained, the highest value donors are going to be those that give again within the first 3 months. And so just to kind of, as a quick reminder, we went over lifetime value last week. So that's how much the average donor gives from their first to their last donation. So this is really pivotal to assessing just how well a donor is being retained over and as well as kind of nurtured and increasing their gift size as well. So complete overhead look at the lifetime value of a donor is really important. So when you're thinking about getting a second gift, there's a few things that are just standard best practices to help you do that. So especially within the first 3 months. So the first of which is reporting impact. We're going to get into more strategies around that later. Celebrating the donor and having those donor appreciation things in place, especially throughout your nurturing journey. And also ending your nurturing journey with a strong call to action. So making sure that's integrated into that nurturing journey that ends before, you know, it's 3 months in. Personalization and segmentation comes into this as well. So a second gift from a smaller donor versus a second gift from a higher donor, you'll probably want to segment that. Also considering specific programs that they might be interested in. And then if you find that your donor, despite your communications with them, hasn't given again within 3 months, I would highly recommend having a re-engagement plan in place. So, you know, enroll them in the regular communications that you send out to donors, you know, whatever you have, newsletters and all of that. But, you know, maybe have a concerted re-engagement strategy in place so that in 6 months, between 6 and 12 months, you're looking to get that second gift from them. And so we went over the nurturing journey last week in pretty extensive detail. You can come back and review this later. So yeah, for those, the action item for you is for those donors is to enroll them in a nurturing journey, and then having that targeted re-engagement journey in place. So number 5, that's an easy win for donor retention, is having a recurring giving strategy. So recurring donors give 42% more annually than one-time donors. So that's actually more along the gift retention line, so increasing gift retention from your donors. But recurring donors have a 90% retention rate as opposed to the average 45, 46% retention rate for one-time donors. So huge win. You're doubling your retention right off the bat with recurring giving. Also, recurring giving is on the rise. So there's been a 17% increase in recurring donations in the last year. This is from the M&R Benchmarks report from 2019. So this is really telling that even your donors are interested as well in becoming recurring donors, because they're coming along that journey with you month by month instead of year over year. So one of the ways that you can do this is having a monthly recurring giving option on your donation form. You'll see on this particular donation form, this is for, this is monthly specific. So it's defaulted for monthly when someone navigates to this form. They're able to make a one-time donation, but it's defaulted for monthly. So that's an easy way to kind of switch the mindset of the donor and get them more in the mindset of becoming a regular sustainable donor instead of just giving a one-off gift. This example is actually from Mortgage Professionals Providing Hope. They ran this Be a Humble Hero campaign a while back now, but they had I believe it was a 30-day initiative to get recurring donors. And so within that 30 days, they tried to get a group of recurring donors signed up. They, all of their communications went out to donors who had given at least once, and they recruited a core group of recurring donors, which now this is just going all the time. They recruited a certain amount, and then now they have these monthly donations coming in they can rely on as an organization. You'll see that some of their content here, you can come back to this later, but I really like how that they pitched it as becoming a partner with the organization. And a lot of their language is all around having sustainable support, and basically their continued support is really important to their organization. So you can do a lot with just even the language that you use on a page to sort of communicate why a donor would give monthly as opposed to giving one time, and just basically reinforcing that they're making a lasting difference. And so an action item for you is to really look at the ways that you can increase recurring giving. This might mean sort of like Refuse Fascism, like I showed you earlier, would be to create a recurring giving specific donation page. So having that defaulted. So I guess creating a recurring specific donation page, you can have a donation page that's also just recurring. So not even giving that one-time option, but defaulting recurring giving as well. A strategy to approach this is taking a look at donors who have given at least once, but probably donors who have given 2 or more times, and having a specific outreach to them. So maybe planning this over the course of a month or 3 months, whatever it may be, having a targeted email series, targeted social media outreach to these specific repeat donors to get them from repeat to recurring. I highly recommend, if this is something that you want to expand, is running that short-term 30-day recurring giving campaign. It's a really, really great way to have something to build up that recurring donor base really quickly, and then just kind of letting that run with that 90% retention rate. And this number 5 has more to do with how you approach recurring giving. Make sure that whatever you use to get these recurring donors has measures to prevent donor attrition with automation. So for example, at CauseVox, when a recurring donor's credit card expires, we automatically send emails for you to get them to update their credit card on file. And so this is a great way to make sure that you're not losing donors just because a credit card expires. All right, so number 6, we're gonna dive into reporting impact. So 68% of donors agree that knowing how their donation makes an impact is important to their gift. This is from the Charities Aid Foundation. And we also saw that the Irish International Immigrant Center used this for their donation page, and they experienced a $100 increase in average gift size with impact-driven donation tiers, so giving levels that are directly tied to the impact that the donor is going to be creating when they give. And so both of these things speak to an increase in donor retention and an increase in gift retention as well, when you're communicating impact throughout your donation page and other communications. So here's just a quick example from SparkShop. They're using our donation page, and they just map out really, really simply and easily what each giving level actually does. So I like their $83 giving level. It's super clear that you're sponsoring one student SparkShop experience. 150 sponsoring prototyping supplies. 300 sponsors a teacher kit. So I know exactly how my donor is going to be making my donation is going to be making an impact when I give to this organization. So I think the more that you're able to tie your giving amounts to impact, it just switches the donor's perspective from, just giving another gift to giving a gift so that they can make an impact. Another way that you can do this is have it reflected, whether it's on your website or on a fundraising campaign, whatever it may be, just how many people are being helped by your organization, or just having that impact really clear and obvious on whichever page you are asking for donations on. So here's a few ways for you to report impact that helps to increase retention. Likely you put together an annual report every year. Make sure that all your donors see that. So when you are focused on reporting all the impact that you've made throughout the year, make sure that your donors can access that either on your website or throughout a donor email series, or any other ways that you can communicate that. So make sure you get your annual report to your donors. Additionally, you're going to want to integrate reporting, like impact recording, throughout your website. So just on different pages, showcasing your impact, whether it's how many people that have been helped or the like. Try and include impact report in every email update that you send out. So whatever your newsletter looks like, make sure that there's a bit in there just about the impact that you've made in the last month. I think that breaks it down really simply and easily for donors to understand how their gifts are being used. Regular impact focused social media posts, also super important. A great way to really communicate impacts to donors, and these are probably going to be for those higher level donors, is maybe giving them a call or sending them a personal email that talks a little bit about how their gift was used in like the last 3 months, for example. Every event that you should have something reporting impact at that in-person event or on that Facebook Live. So make sure that you're integrating reporting into your events and programs. Program-specific reporting is also really important, because you probably have donors that are more likely to give towards a certain program, and letting them know how the impact of that specific program is super important. And just as a best practice, with lots of like fundraising campaigns we see on CauseVox all the time, it's really important to follow up with all of your donors for a particular initiative and let them know what the impact was of that overall campaign. And then this also looks like, incorporating those impact levels for your donation amounts on your donation page. So here's just a few tips for reporting impact, like ways that you can basically break it down. So how you can basically report impact by how many people have been impacted by the particular program or your organization as a whole, how many items have been donated. For organizations that don't really deal with items, which like I know a lot of organizations that donate therapy services, so that would be more of like how much time has been donated. And then as zooming out a bit, talking through the larger issues that were tackled with a certain initiative. As a best practice, you'll want to use images that connect donors to your beneficiaries, so they're able to sort of see the impact and imagine the impact through imagery. Quotes and stories are really important, so breaking down the wall between your donors and your beneficiaries is done really well when you can just allow a beneficiary to basically say how that's particularly impacted them. And that's done really, really well through quotes. So I would try and get that on your website, as much beneficiary quotes as possible, and stories. And lastly, those donation tiers. So if you can't, because I know a lot of organizations can't exactly tie a dollar amount to impact, and that's okay. Another couple of ideas for how you can do it is to let the donor know how much recognition they'll receive. So maybe they'll receive a handwritten note if they're above $100, for example. Maybe put that right on your donation page. Or as an alternative, you can create donor titles. So you can think of this as bronze, silver, gold. Or you can become a little bit more creative with it, like Stupid Cancer does, a lot of the partner, advocate, etc. So ways that you can still tie dollar amounts to impact basically through recognition. Okay, so then as an action item for you, you're going to want to take a look at the ways that you currently report impact and map out more ways you can report impact in your donor communications, including on your website. Number 7. Okay, so peer-to-peer fundraising is a really interesting opportunity for you to drive existing donors to become more involved with your organization. So organizations that use peer-to-peer fundraising tend to raise twice as much as other online fundraising initiatives. And so when you're thinking about peer-to-peer fundraising, almost everyone, if not everyone, that's going to be fundraising on your behalf is an existing donor. So it's basically a really interesting opportunity to engage your donor on a different level with an alternative ask if you don't want to ask them to give again right away. And so one of the things that Chesapeake Climate Action Network, they use this for their Polar Plunge. And so what Kelly was saying was that she really focuses on giving peer-to-peer fundraising excellent support and tools. They feel like because they had more fun and felt more supported, they were likely to retain more of those plungers the next year. So what she did was really aimed at peer-to-peer fundraiser retention. So that's like another kind of retention you can look at year over year, is making sure that you are supporting your peer-to-peer fundraisers with like a fundraiser toolkit, for example, and giving them all of the basically resources they need in order to excel. Because the more they feel supported and the more fun they have, they're probably going to come back again next year. So let's talk a little bit more about peer-to-peer and retention. So yeah, it just provides you that alternate ask for donors. So whether this be someone that gave once, or likely you're going to be targeting people that gave 2 or more times for peer-to-peer fundraising. But it actually helps them develop a deeper relationship with your organization, that switches the narrative from them just giving to you to them becoming personally invested, because they actually are prompted to put into words why they support your organization and what that really means to them. So it also gives them a little bit of a stake in your organization as well, because now they're leveraging their networks for your organization. And so it really ends up turning your donors into advocates for your cause, where donors can sometimes feel like they're just giving to something, where as an advocate, they can really feel like they're part of your mission. So peer-to-peer is a really interesting way to drive further retention and deepen relationships with your donors. And this also ties into a lot of that digital fundraising cycle that we talked about before, that, you know, when you're trying to continually nurture your donors, this actually feeds into attracting more donors as well. So you're gonna end up naturally expanding the reach of your organization through peer-to-peer fundraising, because you're leveraging your donor networks. So that will just drive more donations overall to your organization. And then also another good point, this really came up from conversation I had with Kelly, where because they invested so much in peer-to-peer retention, that also meant that they were retaining the donors from their last peer-to-peer campaign. So they did the Polar Plunge every year. So if they knew that if they were able to retain those peer-to-peer fundraisers, they were also going to be able to retain their donors, because it's, you know, the same people reaching out to the same networks. So that's a really key way to sort of think about peer-to-peer in terms of donor retention as well. There's a lot of opportunities for you to run peer-to-peer fundraising. So whether you just want to ask your board members, do a general peer-to-peer campaign, get board staff, volunteers, really anyone else in your networks, including your donors, of course, to recruit them to do peer-to-peer. That's one way to do it. There's also, you know, you can do an on-gala, so instead of having a big event, bringing that online, having donors participate in peer-to-peer instead of inviting people to a table. You're also increasing your return on investment that way. Also, peer-to-peer opportunities include annual appeals and Giving Tuesday. So a lot of this is, you're able to incorporate peer-to-peer into what you're probably already doing at your organization. So likely you raise funds every year. Maybe tack on peer-to-peer in that, you know, year-end giving, for example. Peer-to-peer also looks like runs, walks, races, and other events. We have board game events and trivia nights and all of that. And so there's a lot of ways for you to activate your donors to become advocates for you through that. And there's also DIY fundraising. So giving your donors the opportunity to donate their birthday, personal challenge. And so this probably brings to mind Charity Water's Donate Your Birthday campaign. Such a powerful tool to activating your donors to become advocates for you. I really like Innovation Africa. They, for first couple things I see on their website, their main call to actions are donate and fundraise. So I think that's really fascinating, the way that they've incorporated peer-to-peer just into the core of how their organization recruits and engages donors. So they've been running this campaign for a long time. It's just up and going all the time, and they just give their donors the opportunity to raise funds on their behalf. So Randon here, for example, he was celebrating his bar mitzvah, and in lieu of gifts, he decided to fundraise for the organization and actually ended up raising over $24,000. So you really don't know the power of engaging your donors until you give them that opportunity to really tell their own story and recruit their own donors for your organization. So I think that's a huge opportunity for you to increase your donor base and donor retention as well. So action item for you is to consider incorporating peer-to-peer fundraising into an existing fundraising initiative. So look at your plan for the year. What else could you possibly tack on peer-to-peer to? Also consider incorporating long-term peer-to-peer fundraising into your website and just fundraising plans in general. All right, so number 8 is focus on increasing gift retention. So we went over that donor retention average is about 45%, but the average gift retention rather is 48%, which means that donors are typically giving 3% more in the course of a year. So that's already on the rise. So like your donors are primed to give a little bit more the longer that they stay with your organization. And so while you're tackling donor retention, don't leave out gift retention as a huge opportunity to grow your fundraising as well. And so when you're thinking about increasing gift retention, recurring giving is going to be one way that you do this. It's 42% more, right? But then there's also a way for you to consider having like a step-up program in place. So having targeted, specific, and relevant asks for different segments of your donors. So for example, like you're not going to want to give the option for, like you're going to want to personalize your communications and asks for each level of donor. So major donors, so like let's say that's 250 or more, for example, you're not going to want to give them an ask to give $5 this week. You're going to want to continue increasing your asks and having them be really relevant to the amount that they've given previously. Another way to just think of this as a whole, so that was more like implementation, is having those specific asks that continue to increase their gift size. But just kind of pulling back and looking at your lifetime value and just having some goals in place for increasing gifts over a 5-year period, for example. So looking at that lifetime value and seeing where you can hopefully increase that gift rate even over and above that 3% increase. Yeah, so I would also, just as a best practice, because gift retention is really in line with like what donors' motivations are. So making sure that you gather those from your surveys so that you can align your asks really closely with their specific motivations and the programs that they're interested in. And sometimes gift retention looks like personalized outreach and asking them to give a larger gift this year. So consider doing that as well, where you might have maybe a list of your top 20 donors, for example, that you want to just personally call, email, whatever it is, and ask them to give a specific amount higher than last year. So that's a few strategies for gift retention. Here's just an example of how Skid Row Housing Trust uses us for their donation page. So they have the generic donation page, which is, starts at like about $25. But then they have a donation page that's specific for their sponsors. So you can see that this is a much higher level donation ask. So, for you might want to create donation pages specific for your appropriate segments of donors. And as another action item is to assess your existing donors and set goals for increasing the gift amounts for those segments. And number 3 would be to plan communications and asks timelines to consider, so you're going to want to take a look at this gift retention goals and plan communications that line up with that, making sure that you have a timeline in which you are asking. And this could come into play with just existing fundraising plans as well. So if you always ask at the end of the year, for example, just have that plan in place to ask for a little bit more from those existing donors. Number 9 is a pretty easy win for donor retention. So it's just ensuring that your donation page meets your donors' needs. So this has been a little different in years past, where it used to be good enough to just have a donation page on your website. But now it's 2020, things have evolved, and donors have needs and expectations. of what it's like to give to your organization. And if they're not met, they're less likely to be retained. So here's just a quick stats I want to run by you. So supporters are 70% more likely to give again if they gave on a branded donation page the first time. 65% plus of all fundraising web traffic is mobile and is growing each year. Donors are 38% more likely to give on responsive websites. And conversion rates increased 50% when form fields were lowered from 4 to 3. So all of these things really talk about what donors' expectations are. They expect for it to be, your donation page to be branded. They expect for it to be mobile friendly. They want to be able to easily give on your website. It shouldn't be too hard or take too long or be too difficult. And they also don't want to sit around all day answering all of the questions. You can get a lot of those questions answered through a donor survey after. But when they're actually giving, I think having just the least amount of fields to remove some of that friction makes it really easy for donors. So a few qualities that you want to ensure that your donation page has is being mobile optimized so that the donor can give on any device whenever they want to. Having it be branded, so not having a third-party redirect, but instead keeping donors right on your website in order to complete their donation, which is something that the CauseVox donation pages, you can embed those right on your website. Just having it be simple, so unnecessary fields, removing all of that, so decreasing friction, and just in general making it quick and easy to give on your website. A way that you can do this aside from just giving the credit card option is to consider mobile payments. So we just implemented Apple Pay and Google Pay. So your donors don't have to take out their credit card and input their whole number. They can just give in one click with Apple Pay. So all of these things end up making your donors happy and more likely to give again. So this is an easy retention win because your donors know that it's easy to give to you. They're more likely to come back and do it again. And so that's really specifically clear with this statistic where they're more likely to give again on a branded page. Here's just a look at what that could look like. This is one of the embedded donation pages on a website. And it's also super simple and streamlined. It's 2 steps. There's not a ton of excess information. It's basically just getting the amount, name and email, and then there's that Google Pay option. So an action item for you is to consider how you can improve your existing donation page. And if you aren't finding that the qualities are available with your current solution, I would consider switching to something else that's going to be able to help you convert and also, continue converting existing donors on your website. All right, and now we got to number 10. And so that is go beyond the initial donor nurturing journey. So we spent a lot of time talking about nurturing your first-time donors, but I don't want it to be lost that you still need to continuing the nurturing journey, because a donor's entire from their first to their last donation with you is a journey that you'll want to continue and develop deeper relationships with them. So keep in mind that it is between 7 and 12 times that you're going to need to make a touch with a donor to get them to make another donation. And so what you want to do with your overarching nurturing plan is to just plan regular touch points. You may already have a newsletter that goes out monthly. If you don't, you'll probably want to get one in place. Also just continuously producing content. So like that graph earlier where donors are less likely to give again if content is too vague or too unpersonalized, you're going to want to invest in content creation, whether that be videos of beneficiaries or continuously producing blog posts and sharing the impact. And so a lot of this is really just using everything that we just talked about, all of those 10 tips, and making sure that you're continually doing that. And it's not just like a one-off sort of push, but rather incorporating that into your marketing strategy for the whole year. So this personalized outreach as well, there might be certain touch points throughout the year where you want to have a personal email or a phone call. You might want to do quarterly impact emails, offer them other ways to get involved with your organization, and then, you know, continue connecting with them throughout donor appreciation events and communications, because not everything needs to be asking for a donation. There should be a lot going on as outside of your asks that just show appreciation to your donors as well. So an action item for you is to set a goal for how many times you want to communicate with donors on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis. So keeping in mind that between 7 and 12 touches is going to be where you'll get another donation. So with that in mind, plan how many times you're going to reach out a month, a quarter, and for the rest of 2020. And just kind of map out what these communications look like. So might be similar to this list right here, but you'll want to, you know, map out monthly what specific touch points you are planning on to do with your donors, just so that you have that communications plan in place. All right, so I know that we're sort of pressed for time here. I'll try and kind of wrap this up pretty quickly. So with these 10 strategies in mind, we're going to want to tie this back to the goals for your organization. So you can really implement a lot of these strategies to increase your retention rates. So last week we went over the donor retention calculator. Hopefully you did this for yourself, where you came in and plugged in your numbers and got your current retention rates for these separate segments. And now using those existing rates, you're going to want to set your specific goals for increasing them. So a 10% increase in donor retention can yield a 200% increase in projected value. So maybe keep that in mind as a goal for the year. Maybe try and increase donor retention 10%. And look at the ways that you can do that. So, you know, maybe you want to specifically target first-time donors, increase that retention rate 5%, and then increase the returning donor retention another 5%. So that leads to an overall 10% increase. So that's an idea for you. But whatever your retention goals are, you're going to want to have them be really specific. And broken out into these different donor segments. So general retention, so how much you plan to increase retention this year, and then have that added up between first time, repeat, recurring, major donor, and gift retention as well. So it all kind of culminates to help you get to your ultimate goal of increasing your retention rates. And then you might want to consider what other specific donor segments you're targeting for increased retention. So you might see that there's like a specific program that has like really bad retention rates. So, you know, assess sort of your overall different segments that you're looking at and try and target increasing retention for those. So when you're building this out, you're going to use the SMART Fundraising Goals worksheet. This is actually from our fundraising planning guide, but this framework works perfectly for donor retention. So you're going to want to map out what specific focus areas, so whether that's improving first-time donor retention rate, for example, what obstacles you currently have that are keeping you from doing that, and setting that specific target. So you'll want to fill this out after our time today, and then we'll go over this in our one-on-one session. So that's your action item, is to fill that out. And then you're going to finalize your donor retention plan. So once you have those overall goals in place, you're going to want to tie them really specifically to the outreach you're planning on doing throughout the year. So with all of these strategies, these 10 different strategies that we went over, which of these are you going to implement and when? So mapping that out between monthly, quarterly, and annually. And don't worry about, there's a big chunk of this fundraising calendar in the middle that's all about cost. Feel free to use that, but I think it's much more important to map out which of these donor retention strategies you're planning on implementing and what goals that specifically aligns with to help you achieve donor retention. So I would definitely use this framework to help you have an approachable and implementable way to increase donor retention at your organization. So it's not just over the course of the next year, we need to do all these 10 things. It's really about breaking it down into steps and making it really approachable to help you practically implement all of these things. And having those, aligned with your specific goals for your donor retention. So that brings us to the end of our class today. With CauseVox, you are able to raise more with less effort through our easy donation pages and fundraising campaigns, whether that's crowdfunding or peer-to-peer, helping you raise more with less effort. And so just as a quick review, we went over our 10 most effective donor retention strategies, finalizing your retention goals, and crafting your actionable retention plan. So these last two steps are going to be things that you want to do between now and our one-on-one conversation. And so when you're ready, please reach out to me. You can reply right to the email that I'll send out within the next day or so to get yours scheduled. You can also just reach out at your convenience whenever you're ready to have a deeper discussion about your particular donor retention strategy for your organization. So we'll go over your plans and goals, and hopefully I can just spot even a few more opportunities for you to increase retention. All right, so we do have a couple minutes here for us to get into a question or two, so feel free to chat them in now. Looks like Jess wrote in a couple questions. Let me get to these. Yeah, so Jess asked, how do you track if donors have given every 3 months and who you should be targeting? So I think this was in relation to, getting someone to give again in the first 90 days. So I would try and see if you have any notifications that you can set up. So whether that's through your donation page or any other digital fundraising software you're using, get notifications when a new donor comes in and make sure that they are, that you keep track of them. There are some softwares that you can use to also just keep in mind the timeline for your donors and sort donors by date. That's what I would really try and do. So you're not just manually keeping track of it through notifications. But yeah, you're going to want to specifically target first-time donors for giving again in the first 3 months. And then, yeah, is there any other questions that I can help with today? And just as a quick example, like with CauseVox, you get a notification every time a new donor comes in, and you also are able to pull reports that show you who your donors are. You also can view a full donor's history in our fundraising CRM, so that you can kind of see and keep track of their relationship with your organization over time. All right. Well, if that's all of the questions for today, I would love to hear from you and keep in touch. And I look forward to our one-on-one conversation. So thank you everyone for joining and have a great rest of your day.